day. We'd like to welcome all of you to this edition of Plymouth Profiles. Plymouth Profiles is an opportunity to meet with people from the greater Plymouth community. And today we're delighted to have one of the newest members of our local business community. It is Dr. Sam Rosenbach, and he is a physical therapist with an office in Plymouth Fitness. Dr. Sam, welcome.
Thank you for having me, Steve.
Thanks for being here. So, Dr. Sam, tell our audience a little bit about your background. Where did you grow up? Where did you go to school?
So I actually grew up in Massachusetts.
Where?
I grew up in Western Massachusetts, in Amherst, Massachusetts. And I actually went to UMass Amherst, so I stayed in my town for undergrad, and I went to school for kinesiology. So I was always interested in movement and sports. I played football, and I played basketball, and I loved just activity. And I had a sports injury when I was in high school that actually inspired me to be a physical therapist.
What's kinesiology?
So kinesiology is the study of movement.
Okay.
So it's really, it's kind of an umbrella term for anything movement, and it's doesn't really say much. It doesn't really translate to a career per se unless you're going to be in research. So I decided to take that one step further and become a physical therapist with my kinesiology.
I should know what that is. My younger brother has a master's degree from UMass in Worcester in exercise kinesiology before he went on to medical school. But I never quite knew what it was, but I knew it had something to do with the body. So good. So then you went on to physical therapy. So what's that?
So physical therapy is really the rehabilitation using physical means. So whether we get trained to analyze the body from head to toe and really look at how the body is moving biomechanically and make sure that we are cueing the body to do the right motions, especially for postural stuff. We do stuff for post-injury. So it's a real big term talking about basically fixing the body through physical means. And
you said that you went to undergrad and studied kinesiology. After your undergraduate training, how much more training was there to become a physical therapist?
So it's about another 3 years after you get your bachelor's degree. So now most physical therapists are coming out with a doctorate. It's required. So that's what I did. I went down to University of St. Augustine and I got a doctorate in physical therapy. And I would say the difference between a doctorate and a master's in physical therapy is the differential diagnosis. And that just means that we're able to pick up different red flags that's not in our scope of practice. So if we see somebody and they're coming in with left shoulder pain, right, and it seems funny, it doesn't seem like there's a musculoskeletal cause for it, we can kind of pick that up and maybe refer out to a cardiologist or somewhere where we might think that the problem might be occurring.
And after the 3 years and you get your doctorate, then is there any type of residency or training?
You can do residencies. A lot of physical therapies will further their training in a residency or a postdoctorate. I didn't. I went right into the workforce to really learn hands-on because that's really where I felt I would learn the best. But there are fellowships, which are, and then there's also residencies where you can actually learn under somebody and get that further education. So there's both options.
And so when did you come back from Florida to Massachusetts?
I came back about 3 years ago, and then I worked for a few companies before I decided to go off on my own and open my own. I saw that there was a niche opportunity for really a personalized approach to handcrafted physical therapy. You're not just a number, I felt, and I really wanted to represent that in my business.
And the name of your business is Inspire Physical Therapy.
It is.
How did you happen to come to that name?
I love the kind of the sort of double entendre where you have inspire like inspiration. So breath is so important to the body and the overall sympathetic nervous system and how we kind of control our body. So it's inspiration that way, and then it's also inspired movement. So being able to move the body with an inspired feel to it and feeling good in your own body. And that's really what I want to bring to the Plymouth community.
And if somebody wanted to reach you, how would they do that?
They can reach me by phone at 508-728-8727 or by my email, inspirept365@gmail.com.
And is this something where there's also insurance coverage in some cases?
So we do accept most major insurances, including Medicare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Tufts, United, and those are the main ones we're accepting currently, and we're working on others. And it's a work in progress. Yeah.
Speaking of work in progress, Dr. Sam, you have HIPAA guidelines where you can't disclose certain things, but I can as a patient of yours. So I would say to the audience, I've been seeing Dr. Sam. I was diagnosed with scoliosis of the spine by an orthopedic doctor, and he recommended physical therapy, and I've been coming to you. For me, it's quite a challenge, and you've been teaching me basically how to walk again. You mentioned about the breathing. That was one of the things. So let's tell the audience, what are some of the things that you can do to help somebody like me? We're taping this in February. I have a birthday tomorrow. I'm going to be 74. So for a 74-year-old man with scoliosis of the spine, what can you do to make things better?
So scoliosis is basically a curvature of the spine, as we talked about. And what happens is when we're off like that, we tend to go farther and farther into that shift, right? So what we've got to do is, what happens is when you're in that shift, the muscles on the outside of the shift of the spine get taut, or the inside get taut and the outside gets stretched. So what we've got to do is we've got to strengthen the ones on the outside of the curve of the spine, and we've got to stretch the ones on the inside to straighten the spine. And then once we do that, we've got to really work into strengthening the core and stabilizers to really keep you in that position and find your correct orientation to center, because as we lean to one way, we find that that's our normal positioning. So we have to find the right baseline to be normal in that way.
So in my world, people often say to me, well, how long is it going to take to finish this case? And so if I were to ask you, how long is it going to take to finish my case, or how long would it be to finish somebody else with a similar diagnosis?
So it really depends on the person, and that's kind of the runaround answer, but they really have to understand the right mechanics, and they've got to basically internalize the dynamics to keep themselves upright and stable in that positioning. To give you a ballpark number, anywhere from 4 to 12 weeks would be kind of the 12 is on the longer side if things aren't going as fast, but yeah, that's where it should be at.
And then sometimes you give people homework, things to do at home.
Oh, it's very important. You only can do so much once or twice or 3 times a week. It really comes down to learning your home exercise program, doing that regularly and consistently to find appropriate measures.
So when you get a patient like me, I've told you I'm not very good at doing homework in physical therapy, given my schedule. So what happens?
What happens is we have to cue more. We have to really work on it in the clinic and do as much as we can there. And what I like is that you're so active. You're also seeing a trainer and other things. So conversing with them to make sure that you're getting some of the same kind of routine involved in all of your activity to kind of improve our findings.
So you interface with other professionals?
Always, yeah.
And what would be an example of others?
Orthopedic surgeons, personal trainers, other physical therapists, occupational therapists. I really firmly believe that we should be communicating more often in the medical field and the medical world, which we don't. We really just try to specialize, and then we kind of keep that. So I really make a point to reach out to those specialists to kind of to treat the patient as a whole as best as we can.
And what drew you to Plymouth?
Plymouth's an amazing city. I mean, it's got everything. You've got the water right there. We've got hiking on the other side. We've got so much history with it being the first first area. So it's really an amazing place, and it's up and coming. There's new communities popping up left and right. There's a great demographic of people from old to young and all the way in between. So it's a great landing place for myself, and I really I have only good things to say. The Plymouth community has welcomed me with open arms, and I couldn't have more good things to say about it.
Well, speaking of demographic, let's talk about your patient demographic. So, does everybody look and act like me?
I see everything, Steve.
Okay.
So I see everything from young kids with certain ailments to
How young?
Let's say my youngest patient on my patient load right now is about 8 years old.
Okay.
Yeah, so I see anywhere from adolescents. I do try to, I'm not technically a kids therapist, so I do refer out to different therapists if I feel like it's more specialized that way. But then I see everybody all the way up to, I think my oldest patient's like 94 right now.
Good.
Yep.
Good. And men and women?
Oh, men, women, yep.
Boys, girls?
Everything, yep. That doesn't, we all have human bodies, we all get affected in similar ways, so it's really about improving those things.
So what are some, I mean, we talked about my diagnosis, which is a scoliosis of the spine. What are some of the other types of either medical conditions or injuries from accidents that you see?
So there's so many things going on. I'd say very common things are joint replacements. Those are very common. You see that between ages usually 60 to 75.
Is that like knees and hips?
Yep, knees, hips, ankles even, or shoulders are definitely some of the joint replacements. Rotator cuff repairs after an injury that way, which is in the shoulder, rotator cuff repairs. Knee arthritis, so osteoarthritis, trying to kind of treat the area to create a better environment to reduce issues there. Low back is very common, with either after a motor vehicle accident or just instability or pain in the back, very common as well.
And some of the equipment that you have, I know you have a bike.
Yeah, yep. So I like to say I'm one of the best equipped clinics in physical therapy in Plymouth, just because I have access to everything at Plymouth Fitness. So we have everything from a turf field to get kids back to sports. We have 4 squat racks. We have, in my own clinic, I have bikes. I have actually a cold plunge for wellness.
Tell us about that.
Yeah.
I'm staying away from the cold plunge, but I've seen people that take the cold plunge.
Oh, the cold plunge is incredible. There's a lot of buzz around that word right now in social media, but it's been around forever. And what it does is when you get into that cold water, you create a shock to your body. And that shock creates a lot of positive effects to it. So whether it's increasing the dopamine in your brain, you get kind of that increased high in a way. You get a kind of a workout for your vascular system. You have these smooth muscle in your arteries that kind of move your blood around your body. Those are constricting and then relaxing after you get out. So that's like a workout for them. You're getting a whole plethora of things, which is really cool. And I've been promoting it, and it's been really successful, and people are really seeing the benefits. So it's been exciting, and that kind of is under that umbrella of live inspired. Get in there, do the things that are hard, do the things you don't want to do, and your body thanks you for it later.
And does your body thank you? Now you're telling us you're promoting a cold plunge. What about you? Do you do it?
I do it, and I do it as much as I can. I usually try to get 11 minutes a week. So I do 3-minute bouts, and I usually get, I get 12 minutes to be per se, but you want to get over 11 minutes. That's what the research shows. So I'm doing that, and that was the real reason for bringing it in, so I could use it. But I absolutely love it. I wouldn't tell people to do it if I didn't do it.
And you mentioned equipment throughout Plymouth Fitness. I know once we've taken a piece of equipment out of the Pilates studio and use that.
We do have a Pilates studio as well in the gym, so I do that for a lot of my patients who are unstable in their joints. They're not moving their joints correctly. So Pilates can be a great modality to really strengthen those areas and have patients understand how to move their joints in space correctly. We also do aquatic therapy, which is amazing. I don't think there's too many places in Plymouth doing aquatic therapy. So what we do is we get into the pool depending on the issue, and we really work it out in the pool, where a lot of patients report less stress on their joints, less aches and pains afterwards, and they still get a great effect.
Now you also have, like, I'm going to call it a little gun that you use. I like the gun.
Yeah, you do like the gun. That's more soft tissue massage. I do use a Theragun sometimes to just kind of work the muscle and release all of the toxins and everything that kind of go there. As you're such an active guy that you get those muscles tight, we've got to kind of release those muscles to kind of work through that. So that's kind of manually working that. I also do that with my hands. So like soft tissue work is very important in physical therapy, I believe. And we also have a couple massage therapists at the gym, so we also refer back and forth to them. They're very, very good.
And I know over the years I've had quite a few clients that unfortunately have experienced falls.
Yes.
And as a result have sustained often serious injuries and sometimes death.
Yes.
So what can you do as a physical therapist to help those of us of advanced age to reduce the possibility of a fall?
So that's funny you say that, Steve. That's one of my passions, actually. And I travel around to churches and stadiums and do presentations on actual fall risk analysis and fall risk prevention. So that's been a real big passion of mine, and there's a lot you can actually do. First thing is you've got to increase your activity. So a lot of us tighten up when we sit, and the older we get, the more we want to sit because everything hurts and we just don't want to move as much. So we've got to get moving. Safest way to do that, if you're just getting started and it's hard for you to even get out of a chair, is chair exercises. So just moving your feet up and down, kicking your leg out, just working the muscles of your legs to start getting some strength that way. And then the second step would be to start doing some standing stuff, and then to really work on balance itself. You have three mechanisms of balance. You've got your eyesight, you've got your inner ear or your vestibular system, and then you've also got your what we call proprioception, which is kind of where your ankles or where your joints feel in space. So those three systems work with each other to keep you upright. So a lot of times when we get older, you'll hear people having neuropathy or something, so that's affecting their proprioception, or that message coming back to their brain. So in physical therapy, we can actually identify that, and we can actually upregulate that, usually with taking away our vision or taking away our vestibular system with head turns, which is our inner ear, to kind of strengthen what we see the deficit to be. Like I said, to do stuff on your own is if your balance is really bad, I would see a professional. But if you just notice it getting a little worse at a time, starting to get just some balance at home. So standing heel to toe like that in front of a counter or something, and just practicing that. You can do that heel to toe with your eyes closed. You're taking away that vision and strengthening the other ways of balance. Or you can start to balance on one leg if it's not too bad. Those are all ways of kind of upregulating that balance and improving that.
So, you know this to be true. I was able to balance on my right leg,
Yep.
no problem. But the first time I tried to balance on my left leg, I couldn't do it.
Yep.
Today, I was able to do it a little bit longer than not doing it at all. How does somebody get from not being able to do it at all to all of a sudden being able to do it?
So it's that mind-body connection. It's about turning on the right muscles to stabilize the joints to keep you upright. That's kind of the short answer to it, but it really is based on what the mechanism of keeping you upright is. So if they have that severe neuropathy and they can't feel their foot, there's other ways of doing it, but it's about really working with the patient to find those deficits and really work them to keep them balanced.
And do people come to you when they've been in car accidents?
Oh yeah, that's a common injury. A lot of times you'll see whiplash injuries, which is when your head and your neck kind of come forward. You can hurt the ligaments through the neck. So a lot of cervical stuff going on, or neck injuries, back injuries, discogenic injuries that way, and we do treat that for sure. And that's about kind of building the stability back, moving in comfortable ranges of motion, and teaching the patient how to move again and move properly.
You mentioned earlier that you are connected to orthopedic doctors,
Yep.
massage therapists, chiropractors.
Yep.
How does a person who has an issue
Yep.
know whether to come to you or someone else?
That's a good question, Steve. So, really, any trained professional who's in the medical field should know if it's in their field or not. So, based on an evaluation, they should know where to send you appropriately, and not just take every case because they want the business. It really should be them analyzing the case, seeing where the deficits are, and then gearing them in the right direction. I'd say an orthopedic surgeon should be able to send you to the right direction. A chiropractor, with their analysis, should be able to send you to the right direction. And sure thing, a doctor of physical therapy or a physical therapist should be able to send you to the right area.
And I said at the outset, so my diagnosis was from an orthopedic physician who gave me a prescription,
Yes.
and I brought that to you.
Yep.
I happen to have insurance,
Yep.
so you're able to treat. But I've also been rear-ended a few times, and I've seen a chiropractor.
Yep.
And while I see you, I find sometimes it's beneficial, particularly if I'm traveling and there's no physical therapist available, to have a massage therapist.
Oh yeah.
So does it make sense to sometimes have a multidisciplinary approach?
For sure. And I refer out to chiropractors all the time for more of the joint mobilizations. If I see a joint's not moving correctly, or if it's in the wrong area, they're the specialists for that. So I refer out to that, and my job is to really make sure that you're moving correctly and you know how to move your body appropriately. Yep.
And then with what you do, I know some of the people, I've met some people there that I've known before I actually saw them in your clinic. And, some of them are people that are out there working hard, doing physical work.
Yep.
How do those people work with you and still maintain their vocational skills?
So that's where my expertise comes in, and really analyzing how the patient, why they're coming to me, right? So let's say it's a stone or a mason, right? And they're putting stones on a wall, and they're doing that repetition, and they're repeatedly doing that over and over, and they're having back pain, right? So we have to see why that is. So if it's a repetitive motion where they're not activating their core to protect their spine, we can work that without overworking them so they can't complete their task. If anything, it helps them complete their task because we're basically improving their strength overall in the areas that need to be strengthened for them to complete their task.
So I happen to know that you also belong to a local business networking group and that you get up and you speak to the group. And earlier in the presentation, you mentioned about your public speaking. So if somebody's watching this and they have an opportunity to create a forum for you to speak, is that something that you are able to do?
Sure, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
And so again, how would people go about that?
To reach out to the BNI group.
Okay.
So we're through, our BNI group is located in John Carver Inn, and we have meetings at 7:30 a.m. on Tuesdays, and it's a wonderful experience.
But in addition to that, if somebody's watching this and says, I am involved, I know the Pine Hills, for example, they have a lot of organizations and they have speakers come in. If somebody from the Pine Hills wanted you to come in and be a speaker, is that something that
Sure.
you can do?
Yeah, I would have them email me at inspirept365. Like I said, I do speak about fall risk and fall prevention, and I'm very passionate about it. So that's definitely one of the areas that I speak on.
What about So the fall risk prevention, certainly for people who are advanced age.
Yep.
What about young people? What are the things that young people who feel they're immortal?
Oh yeah.
What do they have to be concerned about?
They got to be concerned about their movement patterns. So really, how are they moving their bodies? When you're young, you can get away with poor movements, right? Because your body isn't going to tell you that because you're kind of out of pain. But pain is there as an indication that something's going wrong. So I actually would like to start volunteering at high schools and kind of taking those kids through movement analysis, where you basically are cueing kids how to move their bodies better, because I wish I had that when I was a kid. I think that's a super powerful place to be, and help them, because they can create lifelong habits that will really carry them on and keep their joints healthy.
Now, I know recently you had a real life change in your personal life. Tell us about that.
Yes, I did, Steve. I got married in October. Awesome wedding in Jamaica. We had a beautiful ceremony on the water, and I couldn't be more happy. I'm blessed to be with the woman of my dreams, and every day gets better.
And she's known in Plymouth.
She is. She actually was the general manager for Tavern on the Wharf for many years, and just recently transitioned to financial advising, where she's working for Peroni Financial out of Middleborough, and they're.
And her name is?
Her name's Callie Rosenbach. She took my last name, so that's where. Yeah, I'm still getting used to that, but that's an awesome thing to say.
So, Dr. Sam Rosenbach, when you're not busy delivering physical therapy services, what do you like to do in your free time?
Oh, I love anything outside, Steve. So I'm really passionate about being outside, hiking in the nice weather, skiing in the winter. Really, I get up to the mountain as much as I can. I sail. I'm lucky enough to be near the water, so I'm passionate about that. And meditation. So I really try to kind of balance myself out with some spiritual kind of practices as well.
And recently you did some snow skiing.
Yes. I was just at Sunapee on Sunday. Got a lot of runs in. Wasn't too busy, so I was happy with that.
Yeah. And that's all consistent with what you do as a physical therapist.
Yeah, I try to stay moving. They say a body in motion stays in motion, so it's important to stay moving, stay active, and it's important. Hence the inspire and live inspired and move inspired.
And Dr. Sam, if someone just joined us recently and didn't see the beginning of this presentation, how are they going to reach you?
So they can reach me through my phone at 508-728-8727, or they can also reach me by email, which is inspirept365@gmail.com. Those are the best ways to reach me. And those are, I'm very responsive on those.
And as we wind up here today, what would be one takeaway that you'd want people to have from watching this?
Big takeaway is don't live in pain. Get some help. There's no reason to be in pain. There's something you can do, whether it's the minuscule movement of pushing your back down into the bed and with a pelvic tilt to stabilize your spine, or something small. There's always something you can do. So get the right help and stay pain-free, or at least on your path to recovery.
Dr. Sam Rosenbach,
Thank you,
physical
Steve.
therapist. Thank you for being with us.
Appreciate
You're at Plymouth Fitness here in Plymouth.
Yep.
And we look forward to having you join us again in the future. Welcome back to our show today, Sue Giovanetti, and she is the CEO for the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. Welcome back, Sue.
Thank you very much.
Thank
My
you for
pleasure.
being here. So, Sue, I like to begin by having people give me their background. You know, where did you grow up, for people who don't know you, and what have you done to get to where you are today? Because I remember when you were at Sacred Heart.
Right, yeah. So I'm originally from Rhode Island, but I came to the Plymouth area by way of attending Sacred Heart when it was a boarding school. And then went all through Sacred Heart, then went on to college. I graduated from Providence College, majored in economics, and turned around and came back and got married. And my husband Paul and I have been married for 50 years. So we've pretty much stayed in Plymouth. And and absolutely love the community. So that's really what's driven a lot of what I have done. So I had the opportunity to take on the advancement role at Sacred Heart, and I was there for 30 years, part of the leadership team, and then had the opportunity to go to the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless. So that was definitely a switch in roles. They needed someone to spearhead their work, and it's been a great experience, loving every minute of it. And as we were just talking, whole new avenues of experience working for the coalition.
And how many years you been there?
I have been there 7.5 years.
So for people watching who may not know, what is the mission of the Plymouth Area Coalition for the Homeless?
Yeah, so the Plymouth Area Coalition was established in 1985 when a group of local citizens became aware of needs of homeless families and individuals, many who were living in the state forest. So that was the beginning. Since that time, it's really spread to being a full-service basic needs organization where we supply food and basic needs, meaning clothing, household items, and certainly the backbone of the whole program is our shelter program, and we're what is termed a emergency assistance shelter, meaning that we house families who find themselves homeless, and we provide them with housing. And then while they're with us, we're moving them forward, helping them identify sustainable housing. So there's a lot going on at the coalition, a lot of different programs.
Now, for people watching us today, they may say, I haven't seen anybody homeless on the streets.
Yeah.
That's somebody else's problem in San Francisco or other parts of the country. But what's been your experience right here in the greater Plymouth area?
Oh, certainly. There are homeless individuals, homeless families. Our focus are homeless families. But that being said, homeless families are the ones that aren't, they're the individuals who aren't seen. They're couch surfing. They're living in their cars in the state forest or in parking lots. They're running from family member to family member. They often go unnoticed, and people don't really think about the fact that families can find themselves without stable housing.
What are the kind of the triggers that sometimes cause homelessness that was unplanned?
Oh, it's certainly. I think in today's world, and I can go back several years, not just today, many families live from one paycheck to the next. So enter a job loss or a medical emergency, COVID, perfect example, unforeseen circumstances that just can really hit your bank account, and all of a sudden you can't make your mortgage payment, and the banks are looking for your money, and it can happen very, very quickly.
And so currently you're providing emergency housing.
Yes.
And where's that?
So we have a shelter that has been, we've had multiple shelters over the years, but in 1989 we were gifted property on Route 80 in Kingston, just over the Plymouth line. In 1994 we completed Pilgrim's Hope Shelter, which is a 13-unit, meaning 13 family shelter, and there's also a food pantry out there. So we have that one, and then we were asked in October of 22, we were asked to assist the state with the managing of the new arrivals. So in October of 22, we did take on 96 families additionally at a hotel site in Kingston. So we have that, and now after a long search, we're building a new shelter right here in the industrial park at 54 Industrial Park Road. And that's under construction right now, actually renovation. And that's going to be a 26-unit family shelter.
So let's talk about that a little bit, because I have a little bit of knowledge insofar as you came to town meeting,
Yes.
and I was the moderator at that meeting, and I was delighted that it passed. But what are the plans specifically, and how does that vary from what you have in Kingston, other than size? And tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So, number one, 26 units. It's twice the size of the existing shelter that we have. It's 4 levels. One of the nice components of this particular shelter will be that it will have an expansive education room. Education's the backbone of the whole shelter EA system program, and so we're always providing financial classes, health classes, family planning. We have school support for the kids. So there's always educational programming going on. This facility will have a room on the lower level that will be set up specifically to offer classes, and it also will be on the ground level so that there will be programming geared that people in the community will be able to access. It will have 3 levels of, I'll call it housing, 3 levels of units for families, and then also on the lower level will be a congregate kitchen, so families will prepare their meals there, and dining area, laundry. It will be all ADA compliant. So it's a great facility. It offers our clients the opportunity to be on public transportation. The GATRA goes right by the property.
Wonderful.
Boys and Girls Club is right down the street.
Yeah.
All of the Colony Place shops are right nearby. State offices are right next door. Medical facilities are throughout the industrial park. So we couldn't be more pleased with all the resources that are close by.
And so that would be different from what you currently are able to provide.
Oh my goodness, yes, yeah. We were blessed to be able to build on property that was given to us by the Sisters of Divine Providence in 1989. That said, in 1989, that was wonderful. Right now, that land we're surrounded by conservation land now. There's no transportation that goes out that far. It has its limitations, and the world's changed.
Yeah. So you have staffing
Yes.
for 13 families.
Yeah.
How do you plan to staff double the size building?
Yeah, we'll be hiring. We will definitely be hiring. I'm looking at probably adding 26 new.
Sue, tell us a little bit about the funding that you receive for the coalition.
Right. So we have a contract with the state of Massachusetts. And it's for EA shelters, emergency assistance shelters, supplying shelter for families. We have that. And then additionally, of course, like all nonprofits, we do look to grants and different organizations. We have broad support across the Plymouth community. There's no question that way. We've always seen that support and are grateful for it. And that support is both for the shelter and for our food pantry. So, and we serve, all of our programs serve 22 South Shore communities. So we're covering a broad area, and we couldn't do it without the community, whether it's financial resources, in-kind donations, or just volunteer support. Volunteers are hugely important. We have Rotary every month. They're at the food pantry helping unload the truck and getting food boxes together. So, it's a blending of a lot of different funding sources, but it's the state contract that provides the bulk of the funds.
And I suppose the good news on the community support is Plymouth has been growing and continues to grow. so that it seems as though there are more people who are able to volunteer and help and provide support.
Oh, that goes without saying. I think that as we've seen some communities really enhance, and I think I'm speaking about the Pine Hills especially, we get a great deal of support from them throughout the year. Yeah, and I think, a lot of it comes to us, like the more we educate the community about the work we do and the opportunities that are there, it builds new friendships. It makes for a stronger community, and Plymouth is a special place, and we know it, right? So
we do know.
It makes us strong. It makes us strong, and it helps us for people to see the work that needs to be done to help our neighbors, because they are out there. There's no question. There's so many homeless children that are within the school system. That, on a good note, you wouldn't know it, because the school system does a great job of attending to them and making sure that they have a wonderful educational experience. And we're trying on our side to make sure that they are housed and clothed and fed. And
I remember during COVID, the shutdown, and we did our daily show, and the schools were telling us that how important the meals are for some of the children. It may be their best meal of the day, unfortunately.
Yes.
And so it's important. And then what you do, my church has historically done mission work for the homeless. We used to do overnights, and I used to be a little concerned about that because they were volunteer seniors who didn't necessarily have professional training or expertise, and sometimes incidents would occur. But we continue to do Monday meals, and I know people that bake and cook and make sandwiches for that. How does all of that, so those aren't families, those are probably more individuals who are homeless, but how does all this dovetail with what you do?
yeah, so I mean, there can be families in those groups that, not so much on the weekly nights of hospitality, but on the weekend soup kitchens that they do. We know that families take advantage of that opportunity. We talk a lot. All the agencies definitely are in communication, and now that we have Michelle Brady and and her office in the town of Plymouth, I think it's helping us really communicate better. We had a meeting probably 2 weeks ago. We were at the Cal, different agencies, all kind of.
The Cal, for people who are watching.
Yes,
the Center for Active Living.
Yes, and Michelle Brady is I'm trying to think, Health and Human Service Director for the town and Commissioner for the town of Plymouth. And so we had all different agencies. We had Harbor Health. We had Father Bill's, which they tend to individual homeless. They have some congregate shelters as well, but predominantly they deal with individuals. And so there are all kinds of agencies, but the important message was that we were all talking and really discussing needs and where we are. And I know at one point I was like, I remember saying the words like, we want to be sure that we're in our lane.
Right.
Because we want, at the end of the day, we want to be sure we're addressing the needs of our community. And we're all about providing basic needs. And yeah.
It's important to stay in your lane. I certainly have been aware of that in my tenure as a town official and town government, because we have divided branches of government. But also, we still need to be able to, as you say, communicate and really network with everybody. And when I think about homeless families and homeless individuals, at times people experience that, as you said, loss of a job, medical. Also, some people, particularly individuals, that may be abuse of substance. Mm-hmm. There may be mental health issues. Mm-hmm. And how do you deal with that?
So lots of resources in the community, so we do a lot of referrals. That said, I truly, an hour ago, well, 45 minutes ago, I spent an hour and a half with someone facing challenges.
Yeah.
So we definitely are referring families and individuals within families. We refer them out to agencies and make sure that they're getting what they need, the supports they need. And mental health, I think, we'd be remiss if we didn't touch on the fact that we know mental health needs run right through the population we serve. So same thing, exact same thing. All of those topics we're addressing and we're referring people out. And our caseworkers and our rehousing managers are all trained and versed in that area.
So if people watching this presentation and they want to participate or help in some way, how would individuals participate or help? And how would a group, if somebody happens to be involved in a group, like a service club, and they say, oh, maybe we could do something, what could people do?
Oh, so we have, on Mondays at both sites, we have School on Wheels, where we have volunteers come in and they tutor and work one-on-one with the children.
Nice.
And they can tutor right straight up through college. So there's all different age groups.
Nice.
There's the food pantry. Certainly, you can go on a one-off visit to the food pantry. We have many school students that are looking for service hours that come by and will help out at the food pantry. Service organizations, Rotary comes in once a month and helps out. At Christmas, we had Lions, Rotary. I'm trying to think. We had another
Kiwanis?
service. It wasn't Kiwanis, but it was another service organization, and they all came in and helped us out at Thanksgiving, just after Thanksgiving time. So there's all of those opportunities. We manage the Children's Holiday Fund for our region that Phyllis Hughes started through the Old Colony Memorial, and everybody can help with that. Whether it's an organization or a business, people do. They sponsor children, they do toy drives, then they come in and they put the bags of gifts together. That's a huge undertaking, and we have all kinds of volunteer opportunities there. We always need help on our grounds and making sure that our facilities are up to date. It can be yard work. We've had a lot of Boy Scouts and that kind of those types of groups come in and help out that way. So there's opportunity, and the fundraising side of it is always, we're always looking for expertise in that area.
So if people wanted to contact the coalition in order to understand how they could help, how would they do that?
They could visit our website, PlymouthAreaCoalition.org. They could call the coalition main number, 781-582-2010. We're on Facebook. I think volunteer-wise, there's a volunteer application right on the website. So that's certainly a good way. And I'm willing to speak with anybody or give anyone a tour that would like to learn more about what we do. It is the breadth of what we do is pretty wide, and as I said, we couldn't do it without the community, and that was our genesis. We started because the community recognized a need. It then grew into a much larger scope.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
And how does Plymouth compare to other communities that are dealing with the homeless population?
Given that, fortunately, the Community Preservation Act awarded us through town meeting a $3 million gift to help fund the new shelter in the industrial park. That will be the town of Plymouth's first emergency assistance family shelter. So up until now, if you lived in Plymouth, you would have had to go out into, to another community.
Okay.
Now you won't have to do that.
Good.
So that's huge, right? I'm trying to think of.
Well, I guess another question I have, maybe that to get to this, what I really want to get to is, when you came to town meeting, there were some people that weren't supportive. What do you have to say to people that might have been cautiously concerned about some of the things that the coalition's doing?
Sure. So I refer to this as the elephant in the room. Yes, at this moment in time in the Commonwealth, we are faced with an excessively large number of families who have found themselves homeless. Many of them presented themselves to the Commonwealth over the last 3 to 4 years. And they're new to our country. There was definitely some misunderstanding as to how the shelter system works. There was a lack of knowledge, and and a lot of it was fueled by political rhetoric, social media misinformation. So it was unfortunate that it got to be emotionally fed. What I can say is that our caseworkers, our rehousing workers are doing great jobs, and I know across the state it's the same way. Before I left, we're going to be at close to 15 families that we will have housed since January 1st. Next week, by the end of next week, we will have housed 15 families, many of them in the Plymouth area, which is that's a stretch, but the families we're working with, they figure it out. There's jobs out there. Mom works in the morning, dad works at night, kids are cared for. It's working, and what a lot of people don't understand is that yes, the Commonwealth has supports in place for homeless families, but we also, part of our job as a shelter is to follow these families for a couple of years after they've found housing. So we have somebody move out Friday. For the next 2 years, they'll have a caseworker that will be checking on them every 5 or 6 weeks, paying the rent. Are the kids going to school? How's your job going? They'll visit them, make sure the property's being kept up. So there are checks in place to make sure that these programs are all positive. I think the new shelter is wonderful for our community. Now at least, God forbid, families are going to go homeless. Likelihood is that someone will, and we will have the shelter for them. And all those placements are made by the state. None of the placements are made by the coalition. The Commonwealth makes all of the placements into shelter, but Plymouth families do now have a place that they will be able to go to.
Are there times of the year that are more active than others for homelessness needs?
So, family homelessness tends to be more economically driven. We have a 24/7 referral line as well, that we always have a live person answering that phone, so you're not getting a message. And we obviously, colder months, we get lots of calls.
Okay.
And we get all types of calls. And we get, I think, we get a lot of calls for elderly
Housing?
individuals, couples,
Yeah.
because the public housing wait list is so long.
Yes, yeah.
They can't afford or they've been squeezed out of apartments. And if you never owned a home, you might have just been an entry-level job your whole life,
Sure.
and you probably were renting, and it's hard.
Sue, when you're not doing your work with the coalition, what do you like to do in your spare time?
I don't have any spare time.
I mean, it's not a 40-hour work week.
I like to play golf.
Oh, nice.
I like to play golf.
Yeah.
And we have a new puppy, so the new puppy is cut into all of our time. But no, I know, you know, I do a lot with the Plymouth Area Chamber and
Yes.
different organizations in town, so it keeps us busy.
Good.
Yeah.
One more time, how do they contact the coalition?
PlymouthAreaCoalition.org or call 781-582-2010.
And one last takeaway
Yes.
for anybody that joined us late.
Homelessness is in Plymouth. Plymouth Area Coalition is very proud to have been here since 1985 and addressing a lot of those needs, but we can't do it without the community.
Sue Giovanetti,
Thank you.
CEO, Plymouth Area Coalition for
Thank
the
you.
Homeless. Thank you for being with us again.
Thank you.
This completes this presentation of Plymouth Profiles. Thank you for joining us. I'm Steve Triffletti. We hope you'll be with us once again.